He's the horror hunter from Down Under. He will go in search every week of the best and worst in horror movies throughout the month of October. His mission? Don't come back until he's found some of the best and worst putrid piles of horror goodness you could ever imagine. Horror Hunter from Down Under coming back at you again. This time around we're going to talk about Disturbing Behaviour from the late 90s. This movie rides the line between thriller and horror. Add to that the fact that it's got some science fiction elements and that it was written and directed by a man who actually worked a lot on the X-Files television series, and you've got a recipe for fried gold in the cinema. So let's talk about this film, shall we? Basically, the plot is it's a Stepford high school movie. If you're familiar with the film from the 70s called The Stepford Wives, this movie is basically that same kind of concept but set in a high school. The idea of which is parents are tired of seeing their kids slack off in school or not take their responsibility seriously. They want perfect children. So enter Dr. Caldecott. Dr. Caldecott has got this idea, a program he wants to start called the Blue Ribbon Society. Well, what are the Blue Ribbons? Essentially, they're microchipped children that controls their impulses and makes it where they can focus on their studies and being good little boys and girls as though they're from the 1950s or something. Only problem is, every time their hormones activate, they go apeshit. No, seriously, look at this.
Orange juice. I don't know what I did with the one with the deodorant. It's here somewhere.
Hey man, what's the hooker say after 12 hours on the job? What? Man, we'll clean up on our floor. At least someone had to think about it sometimes. Not important. Oops. Sorry.
See what I mean? Now, this film is notable for a couple of reasons. It was made approximately a year or 2 years, I believe, before the first X-Men film. James Masters, who played Cyclops in the early X-Men films, is in this film as our lead character, Steve. Katie Holmes of Dawson's Creek fame shows up in this film and is absolutely amazing and, of course, sexy as hell. Well, while I love the two of them and they're great in their own right, the two stars of this film for me, because I've always thought they were really energetic and had a lot of great energy in this film, is Nick Stahl and, well, this guy. Sorry, don't know his name, but they're both amazing in this film. The reason I like these characters is because, well, they show exactly how most of the Blue Ribbons used to be. One of them then, later on, becomes a Blue Ribbon, and as a result, our main character Steve and Katie Holmes' character Rachel have got to figure out a way to escape before it happens to them. There's a lot of conspiracy stuff within this film that I have not talked about, but I'd highly recommend you checking out Disturbing Behaviour from the late 90s. Not only is it an amazing film, and I mean that, it's an amazing film, and unfortunately, the director got screwed over by the studio in this case. Let's talk about that a little bit, shall we? The movie was made by MGM, but the director of the film, as I stated before, he's got a long list of television credits that include a lot of X-Files episodes. Now, the X-Files, of course, was the thing in the 90s, right? So, that's the thing about this movie. You'd think with such stellar credits as the X-Files that he'd be able to pretty much do what he wanted to do, right? Well, apparently there is a director's cut of this movie that includes something like 35 minutes of extra footage that would have actually explained some of the plot holes in the theatrical cut of the film. The studio, of course, nixed the director adding these films back in for any DVD or Blu-ray editions. This personally sucks in my opinion because I love the film and would have loved to have seen what the director originally intended to do with this film. I've heard rumors that there's copies of it floating around at conventions. If that's true, I might try and pick one up one day. Who knows? But I highly recommend checking out Disturbing Behavior. Again, amazing cast, interesting story. But the reason this film works on so many levels is not only because of the immense talent involved, but again, let's talk about that cinematography, use of light and shadow. This movie has got some really interesting blue filters going on within the composition of the picture. Think about how The Matrix was sort of color corrected so that the real world was blue, The Matrix was green. That kind of thing is going on to a large extent within this film. So, if you enjoy movies like that kind of let you know when things are going to happen based on color tone, use of light and shadow, plus you like the idea of a Stepford movie set in a high school, plus an amazing cast and director, then definitely give Disturbing Behavior a chance. It's one of my favourite movies from that time period when everyone was trying to rip Scream off. While the poster looks like a Scream ripoff, the movie's plot itself is very unique and very interesting. That's one of the reasons I enjoy it as much as I do. I'm the Horror Hunter. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of 31 Days of Horror. Don't forget to click that bell icon so you can be notified next time Aaron Talks or the 31 Days of Horror uploads a new video for the month of October. And of course, don't forget to click that subscribe button. I've been the Horror Hunter. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of 31 Days of Horror, and I'll see you guys later.